today, I want to start off with going over just a few things of did you know? Some quick little tips and facts about NetDirector. And then we'll go into more detail about our PACER services, our SCRA services, our military search. We do have an SSN finder, which we'll discuss. And then lastly, in our last webinar, excuse me, we discussed PennyMac updates. So we're just going to go ahead and give you the update on PennyMac. I'm sorry, excuse me. Before I get started, due to the nature of everybody automatically being on mute, I want to be able to answer your questions. So Melissa has graciously volunteered to work the chat for this webinar. And so if you have any questions about anything I'm saying or any of the topics we discuss, please put your question in the chat and Melissa is going to actively answer those questions as we go through the webinar. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So did you know NetDirector monitors PACER and the DoD site 24/7. We are constantly looking for any updates, maintenance windows, anything that could potentially affect our transactions and consequently your transactions. So some facts that Melissa gathered for you guys, which I thought was very interesting. I see them all the time. I did not realize that PACER has already had 6 maintenance windows since January. The Department of Defense has had 7 maintenance windows, and we all know that sometimes the DoD site can be slow. So that's outside of just the site slowdowns. And so how we compensate for that is that we have a team that works off hours to make any programming adjustments, to monitor incoming transactions, making sure those transactions get pushed once the programming and testing is done. So we are here for you 24/7 on those PACER and DoD sites. So what makes NetDirector different with these services is that you will have your dedicated analysts and the NetDirector team at your service. We have several years of industry and integration experience. Melissa has been here since the inception of NetDirector. All the analysts have been here for 5 years or more. And a few of us analysts, myself and Betsy Hutton, have been in the mortgage default industry way more than I want to volunteer, but let's just say it's older than my daughter in college. So you have a lot of experience at your fingertips for that. Okay. The other thing that we like to do is pick up the phone. I like actually talking to people throughout the day. It's kind of nice. It breaks up the long day, so to speak. So every analyst has an individual phone number that you can contact. But what happens if you try to contact me and I'm in a meeting or on another call, it will then queue up to our NetDirector support. And then another analyst will be able to help you. So we want to make sure that when you call, someone is answering your call. We also strive to have lightning turnaround time, and that includes maintenance, enhancements, just your regular requests, and we're always trying to increase our power, making sure those transactions are turning around as fast as we can for you. The free enhancements. So this is pretty cool. So every time that PACER or the DoD makes changes, like I said, we try to get those programmed, tested, and out for production as fast as possible. But if there's any way that we can provide more information to you in the transactions, like additional redaction options, some docket sorting, anything like that, we do not charge that back on you. So they are free enhancements, and we are always looking at ways to enhance the transaction. And the other nice thing, well, another nice thing is that we queue transactions while the vendor is doing maintenance. This is nice for you guys because I know it takes time if the DoD goes down or the PACER is going down for you guys to contact your team and say, hey, we've got to pause transactions. Well, fortunately, when PACER and the DoD has site maintenance like that and they're going down, there's no reason for you to have to pause your transactions. You can continue to send those to us and we'll hold them in our queue while the vendor is doing maintenance. And then once we've tested and confirmed all the changes have been made and the transaction is working as expected, we'll then release your transactions from our queue. So that saves you some time from having to stop any programming on your side. So like I said, we want to do as much as we can for you, and that's what makes us different. All right, again, if you have any questions as we get started to go into Pacer, feel free to put them in the chat and Melissa will answer them. But right now, I just want to go over an overview of Pacer and what we offer. So we have Pacer and Pacer Plus. Pacer is the national, Pacer Plus is the regional, and you also have the option to do both of those, and you can do those based on your needs. Responses are within a few minutes with screenshots. We can provide the original and redacted copies. We want to make as many options to fit your needs as possible. So we have options for docket sorting. To get the most recent docket only, you can request a Pacer to only retrieve by date. So if you know somebody who's a habitual bankruptcy filing, or you know of multiples, then you can retrieve the docket based on a date range. And then we have some search options. There's the last 4 digits and last name. There's the search only. So if you only want a search conducted to see if there's a bankruptcy, you don't want the docket, that's available. And then we also have to just search by name only. And lastly, you can also do the SSN finder as part of the Pacer request transaction. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Pacer Plus. Why would you use Pacer Plus, the regional search? Well, national court can be behind 24 to 48 hours. Not a huge deal when you're working throughout the foreclosure process or the bankruptcy process. However, it does or may come into a concern if you're required by your servicer to run a Pacer search before the sale, the morning of the sale. And if you're just doing the national, it may not report those. So we do have the regional that you could run in those situations where time is of the essence. We also have multiple retries to regional courts. We will report if a region is unavailable. And then we have an option to save money. So if you choose to do a regional prior to doing the national and there's no hit on the regional, then we go and check the national afterwards. So you have a little bit of option there if you're running those before the sale. Again, like I mentioned, the free enhancements, there's lots of different things that you can do on your Pacer searches, and including your Pacer Plus, is that we can sort by your PDF, active or no results, docket order, and like I said, the begin and end dates. Okay. So for some helpful hints. We suggest, now it's obviously up to your firm, but we suggest when you're searching for a last name, and you know last name and social security number, the last name requirement in Pacer is only the first 2 digits. And why that becomes important is for name variations or name misspellings, or when you do, I didn't mean or, when you do it by only the first 2 digits, you're more likely to get an accurate result. When you put a name variation, let's use me for example, it used to be Borelli Prida. No one ever knew me by Borelli Prida. So if you only search by Borelli and I filed bankruptcy under Borelli Prida, you'd get a false negative. So social security number, last name, first 2 digits. Similarly, with the first and the middle name, you can return false negatives due to name spellings and variations. I'm another good example. Sometimes I'm Nicole, sometimes I'm Nikki. If you search by Nikki, you probably would not find my bankruptcy due to the name variation. So I would leave those out and only use the SSN and the last 2 digits of the last name. I mean, I'm sorry, the first 2 digits of last name. Now, when we return results, there's notes, and the results, we suggest that you intake those notes because they can help determine if there are any issues. Okay. We also can provide you with the original and redacted copy. So this is great for audits and firm records. So if you have a servicer that wants an original copy, but you have to file a redacted copy with the court, you are able to get both. It's an element in the request where you just would put the value based on what you want to receive, if you want original and redacted or both. Okay. We do have the name only, which is search by name only for corporations or judgment holders or tenants. The name only comes in, like I said, comes in play for corporations. They're never going to have a social security number. Or if you have a judgment holder or tenant that you want to run a bankruptcy on and you only have their name, we can do it by that. And PACER will allow SSN only searches again. It's requiring CAPTCHA. We are currently in review of our programming for this, and more information will come very soon on that. And lastly, I know everybody has probably gotten some information about the MFA new requirements for PACER searches. And if you haven't already done so, we ask that you confirm that your PACER account is search only, set for search only. If your account is for ECF or anything for filing, you're going to be required to do additional authentication. So if you do have ECF, I'm sorry, my goodness, ECF, then you want to make sure you open a new account for search only. Okay. I see some questions coming in. Great. We love questions. Melissa's got those handled. So thank you, Melissa. And we'll go ahead and move on to the SCRA. So with the military searches, you do get a proof of search with certificates and minutes. You'll have the option to get the PDF of the Department of Defense certificate and the search screen. We have, multiple redaction options for the SSN and date of birth. Like the PACER, you can also get the original and redacted, both are available. And then the SSN finder is available in the request too. So if you need to run military searches on judgment holders, tenants, wives, husbands, something where you do not have a social security number, but you need that search ran, we do have the option to put the SSN finder request within your military search request. Not only will we return the SSN, then we will also run the military search on that SSN individual. Okay, so let's go into some helpful hints regarding SCRA. Redact by servicer. This comes across a lot. We hear this because of one servicer saying they wanted redacted copies, but the other servicer says, no, we want the originals, or there's some kind of variation of what their redaction is. Fortunately for you guys, that we can adjust on our side to make those requirements fit your needs. So basically what you'll do is you'll contact your analyst, work with them and say, hey, I've got vendor wells, they want this redaction, but all on my chase files, I need this type of redaction, and we'll adjust your mappings. So you can still send the same request as long as you have the vendor too, and we'll help you get the right redaction on the results. There are limits on the name lengths. That's not a problem for us. If you're coming into that issue, please let us know, and your analyst will put an expression on your mapping to limit that name length. And then lastly, if you need to upload the PDF document to ICE, we have a transaction that can do that all in that one. It's our launch military search. And what that transaction does is when you send a military search request, we will go out, do the search, send you back the response, and that's as normal. But when you get the document of the certificate, we then create another transaction on our side to upload that to ICE. Because most of the time, not only do you have to run it, but you also have to show proof to ICE. And so we can do that in one transaction. The main thing about that transaction is you just want to make sure that you include the RID, and that way we need that, so we make sure that we're uploading that certificate to the right process in ICE. So if you have any questions about this, again, Melissa's answering the questions as we speak, but you can always reach out to your analyst. We are more than happy to discuss any of these SCRA or PACER bonuses that we can help you get set up based on your mapping. Okay. And it's just the upload. Sorry, I just saw that. I had a question. I'm not supposed to be answering questions. Melissa's doing it for you. Someone asked, is it completing DDFs? No, it's just uploading the certificate to ICE on the launch military search. But good question. So I will move on. Let's talk about the SSN Finder. So the RSSN Finder allows you to submit a name and an address, and we'll return a full SSN, and they're in real time. They can be used in the military search, the PACER search request, or as a standalone transaction. So if you want to use, for example, the SSN at the beginning, right when you get the referral, you've now done a title search, you've got a bunch of judgment holders, you could do it then. There's lots of different options and timing, but it can be a standalone transaction if you're not quite ready to do a military search on them or PACER. What's nice about our SSN Finder is that it's going to return the full name, the date of birth, if they are deceased, any phone numbers, and it advises if the person has used more than one SSN. So let's talk about some helpful hints with the SSN Finder, because sometimes that can be a little confusing. So on the SSN Finder, less is more. You want to search by the name and address only, and you do not want to include middle names or initials. And let me explain why I say that. The way the SSN Finder works is it looks for the name and the address, and then it goes out and it searches for anytime that person has used their social security number at that address. So if, let's say I bought a new house and I needed my electricity turned on, I had to provide the electric company with my SSN, it's going to come back for Nicole now Ellis. But if you had your records as Nicole Borer, or Nicole, well, that's a bad example, Nicole L. Ellis, that would not work because I did not include my middle initial on my request to have my electricity on. And I'm sorry, I fumbled that a little bit. Let me give another example. So you have a tenant. You got to run a SCRA search on them. The tenant applies for internet. They need to give their SSN. They send their SSN search for Todd Fulton, but when they got served, they did Todd B. Fulton. And if you do your military search with your SSN search with Todd B. Fulton, you may get a false negative. So I hope I cleared that up for a little bit. If you receive multiple SSNs, you want to run a military search and PACER search on all the SSNs that come back to ensure compliance. Lots of times there could be typos or there could be some shadiness. I don't know. I don't want to think anyone's shady, but they might have had an SSN use one number for the electricity, another number to get a credit card at that address, and now you have two SSN numbers and you're not sure which one to use for your military search and your PACER search. Run them both. That way you ensure compliance to your servicers. I'm going to stop for a second because I know I fumbled that a little bit to give everybody some time. Does anyone have any questions about the SSN Finder? It looks like we're good. Sorry about that. It is a very nice tool in the fact that it gives you so much information, and now you can run those SCRA searches on your those defendants or judgment holders that you did not have a social security number previously. All right. So PennyMac has now or is now ready to do bankruptcy standard events and bankruptcy document uploads. At our last webinar, we had the foreclosure referrals, foreclosure events, and document uploads. We were waiting to finish the standard events and document uploads for bankruptcy. Now those are complete, so those are all available for your use. And then someone asked me the other day about PennyMac invoices. We are researching that. I know PennyMac came out and said they're going to be ready for invoices. So what we're doing is we're checking with them now to see about integration for that. Okay. If you have any questions about PennyMac, please put those in the chat and we'll make sure that we get your question answered. And then lastly for me today, we want to make sure that we're doing these webinars that have content that's important to you or interesting to you. So I'm going to launch a quick poll because next time I'd like to get your input on what you would like to talk about. And if you just give me 1 second to find my mouse, there it goes. Let's see. I'm curious. So what would you guys like to hear and talk about? And basically, there's just, if you can freeform, what other topics or transactions that you would think would be helpful in a webinar, please input those now. And it just gives us an idea of what type of information you'd like to talk about and in more detail. Okay. I'm watching to see if anyone's putting anything in. If not, if you are costs, good one. I was gonna say if you aren't, or if you're on the phone or don't have access to a computer right now, feel free to email me. It's just Nicole at NetDirector, and we'll get those. Extractions, cool. Referral, transaction. These are all great information. Tempo, cool. All right, so that's good. I'm going to run a report on your answers, and then we'll discuss and we'll make sure that we get some of these talked about for you in our upcoming webinar. So, all right, thank you. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it on over to Gretchen, and she's got a few words to let and a few updates to discuss with you. So I thank you guys for attending. I really appreciate your time. I know everyone's busy, so thank you for that. And at this time, Gretchen, are you ready?
Sure, just a couple words. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. And before we wrap up, wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Gretchen Borer. I'm your main point of contact. If you're interested in learning more about pricing or getting started with anything, we will be sending out a follow-up email with my contact details. So feel free to reach out directly. And thanks again, everyone. We really appreciate your time today.